Good evening, and welcome to Nightly News. On April 11, 1945, we welcome you from Warm Springs, Georgia, where we were interviewing our president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Good evening, Mr. President.
Good evening, Selena.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Do you mind if we get started right away?
Go ahead.
So, what were your main concerns when you entered the presidency in 1933?
As I entered the presidency in 1933, my main concern was ending the Great Depression, as well as getting every American back up on his or her feet. It was now under my jurisdiction to help those that I could, as well as keep society content.
Interesting. And as you entered a position that dealt with all issues of the Great Depression, what were your feelings towards the common man?
As a Democrat, it is typical to fully support the common man, as you called it. I pledged myself to a New Deal for the American people. That in itself, the support of those who built America versus those who run it, speaks for itself.
So, how did you feel about enacting your New Deal legislations and associations?
Throughout the 100 Days Congress, in which most of the New Deal programs were created, I felt that we, as politicians, could bring the 3 R's to the public: relief, reform, and recovery. We had confidence in these programs, otherwise we would not have enacted them.
But some of the programs we have enacted have been challenged by the Supreme Court. How do you justify the legality of them?
Justification can be found through what is necessary. In this instance, the programs were necessary. Rules are not sacred, principles are. While they prate of economic laws, men and women are starving. We must lay hold of the fact that economic laws are not made by nature, they are made by human beings.
So, what was your initial reaction to social and/or political opposition?
As per any politician, obvious social and political opposition was found, and this fact did not surprise me. No politician can be exactly what the public wants him or her to be. I am a Christian and a Democrat. That is all.
You're also a husband to your wife, Eleanor. How has she helped you during your time in office?
Eleanor has been a great help, not only with my political career, but in my life. She's a driven lady who keeps everyone going.
So, besides relying on your wife, for what reasons did you pick your colleagues and cabinet members such as Truman?
I chose my colleagues on the basis that they were good politicians, not just Democrats or men for that matter. I'm not the smartest fellow in the world, but I can sure pick smart colleagues.
Yes. So, why do you believe the American public has voted you into office 4 times?
Noticeably, I have received ample support from the American public, both in my elections as well as in my day-to-day affairs. I'm aware that a 4-term presidency is uncommon and perhaps out of line to the 2-term presidency, but I could not deny society of the candidate they are comfortable with. I believe I have received this pleasure to serve as president for many reasons, most importantly of which is the fear of change. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
That may be true, but a couple years ago, Americans were afraid of being involved in World War II. In the beginning of the war, what shifted your neutrality proclamations to acts like cash and carry or Lend-Lease?
As the war continued to rage in Europe and Asia, it was necessary for me to protect the U.S. and its interests. The country came first, hence the neutrality proclamations. Once our interests overseas came into harm's way, it was also necessary to institute programs to help our interests, hence programs like cash and carry and Lend-Lease.
So, how did you feel about the war prior to the attack on Pearl Harbor?
Prior to the attack on Pearl Harbor, the war seemed significant and dangerous, as any world war would be. However, the U.S. had not personally or directly been victimized, giving us no real reason to enter full-scale war.
So, why did you declare war after Pearl Harbor was attacked?
Following the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, impending nationalism would sink in due to the American attitude. Hence, it was my job, or pleasure rather, to hold true to how the public felt. For America is and always will be based upon democracy. Therefore, I had to declare war for the sake of the U.S. There is nothing I love as much as a good fight.
So, I understand why you declared war, but why did you agree to the Germany First tactic when the U.S. had personally been attacked by Japan?
The Germany First tactic was logical, for they had a stronger hold in U.S. interests and European interests. American emotion could not get in the way of common sense.
Do you believe the Allies could win World War II without the help of the United States?
It is possible, although not entirely probable. Due to our well-built-up armed forces, the other Allied powers have been extremely helped by us, as well as our country, after they had much of their forces taken down in the early stages of the war. Our late entrance has given the Allies an advantage.
So you talked about our well-built-up armed forces. And there's a rumor going around that an atomic bomb is being constructed under the so-called Manhattan Project. What are your thoughts on this, or jurisdiction for that matter?
Unfortunately, I cannot disclose information about such a matter, whether it be valid or not. In this case, I will let the Americans believe what they wish to believe.
So, what do you believe would bring an end to this war?
We need more than an end to war. We want an end to the beginning of all wars. Yes, an end to this brutal, inhuman, and thoroughly impractical method of settling the differences between governments. As for what will bring an end to this war, the end of totalitarian authority.
That is very wise, Mr. President, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Selena.
That's it from Warm Spring, Georgia, and I hope you have a good night.
Was ending the Great Depression, as well as helping those that I got my lungs here. Dang it! Man, as you called it. I pledged myself to a New Deal for the American people. That, in itself, tells you that I base my thanks on... yeah, never mind. As a Democrat, it is typical to fully support the common man, as you called it. I pledged myself to a New Deal for the American people. That support of those who built the country versus those who run the country. Totally got that wrong, didn't I?
How did you feel about enacting your New Deal programs and associations? Let's see, in 1933.
As I entered the presidency in 1933, my main concern was not laughing at you. Justification can be found through what is necessary. In this instance, the programs were necessary. Rules are not sacred, principles are. I really don't want to do this take.
I'm sorry.
Support of the... We were so close.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop recording now.